The man buys a first-class ticket every day, but he never gets on the plane. He just waits anxiously in the hall watching TV. Until this day, the host on the sports channel suddenly fell asleep. The screen switched. All the players collapsed on the field. The man couldn't sit still anymore. He said nervously. After that, the man walked straight out, rushed to the boarding gate looking around. Just then, he seemed to went off piercing his hand. The pain was excruciating. The man didn't care about his injury. He still demanded immediate takeoff. But the captain only had one hand now. He couldn't fly the plane alone, and the co-pilot was missing. Help! The man quickly brought Kelly to the cockpit. Soon, man's gun made that impossible. The captain had no choice but to call the tower for takeoff, but there was no response. Then he realized, the bullet must have damaged the radio. The man didn't care. Either take off or get shot. The captain called the flight attendant, told her to seat the passengers, and instructed Kelly to throttle up. As the plane lifted off the ground, the man ordered the captain to keep flying west, toward the sunset. Once they were stable, the captain asked what he meant by sunrise means death. Raymond quickly explained. He was a NATO Army major, who accidentally overheard a secret meeting. They said the sun had mutated. Anything exposed to it would die. Even hiding indoors wouldn't help. He had doubts at first, but when every athlete on live TV suddenly collapsed, it confirmed everything. Now they had to race against the sun, stay in the dark, or they'd all die. But judging by their faces, they didn't believe him. Raymond didn't bother explaining further. He already controlled the plane anyway, but trouble kept coming. The captain's wound grew worse. If untreated, it could endanger everyone. The major had to let Kelly find a doctor. Kelly asked who was a doctor. A woman said she wasn't one, but she treated her pigs before. A bullet wound should be fine. During the treatment, the woman and the captain kept exchanging looks. The major noticed and warned them, no funny business. He knew where West was. The captain agreed, but had one condition: keep the sun mutation a secret, to avoid panic among passengers. The major agreed. The captain announced over the intercom. The destination was changed from Moscow to Iceland per the major's order. Passengers were confused, but the major kept his word and said nothing. However, one bearded man overheard their conversation. He asked what was going on with the sun. The major impatiently said he heard wrong. The passengers stayed quiet, fearing his gun. Then a mother stood up bravely, refused to change course, because her son had an important surgery in Moscow. The major wouldn't listen. The argument escalated, but was interrupted by the captain's scream. Everyone looked toward the cockpit. They had no thread to stitch the wound, so Daisy used fire to cauterize it. Painful but effective. The captain managed to smile, but it didn't last long. Distracted, he snatched the gun, and ordered the flight attendant to lock the major in the restroom. The major was an officer. He wouldn't take that humiliation. He refused. The bearded man aimed the gun, ready to send him west. The major's body trembled, but his mouth stayed tough. The flight attendant saw he was losing face, so she quickly led him into the restroom. As soon as she locked the door, the bearded man aimed the gun at the captain, asked why he hid the truth about the sun, and said he clearly believed it. The captain explained. The major was insane. He only pretended to cooperate out of fear. The bearded man believed him, lowered his guard, and handed over the gun. Then the vomiting passenger muttered the word diamond, and died. The chaos ended. Without the major's threat, the captain flew more calmly, but his relief didn't last. The sight of Iceland airport made his heart sink again. People on the ground were fighting for planes, screaming everywhere. It was hell on earth. They realized the major was right. To avoid the chaos, the captain told Kelly to find another airport, then went to release the major. The major was nervous, but when he saw the bearded man, his anger flared up. The captain stopped him, and asked what was happening below. The major straightened up, and demanded his gun back first. The captain signaled Mechanic Jim to hand it over. After getting the gun, the major told everyone about the sun mutation. To survive, they had to keep flying west, stay in the dark. But trouble came again. Kelly brought bad news. There wasn't enough fuel to reach the next western airport. They had to turn east. The major refused to go east, but they had no choice. Forward meant crashing. Backward meant a chance. The captain chose the latter. The major tried to stop him. The captain told him to shut up, and not distract him. The major went silent. The passengers were terrified. A mother comforted her son. A believer prayed to God. A husband worried about his wife. An influencer recorded a final message for her fans. Even the captain was sweating all over. And then disaster struck. Just before landing, the left engine failed. The plane shook violently. They couldn't land like that. In the crisis, the captain made a bold decision. Told Kelly to shut off all engines, and glide without power. Kelly thought she misheard. Only small planes could do that. A big jet meant suicide. But the captain had no choice. He told everyone to brace for impact. The plane descended toward the runway. Luckily, the landing gear touched down smoothly. Unluckily, the runway was too short. They couldn't stop in time. About to crash into a warehouse, Kelly slammed the brakes, and pulled the handbrake. They stopped just 3 meters away. They both sighed in relief. No time to celebrate. The captain told passengers, wait until it's safe outside before getting off. But the passengers panicked. They ignored the attendants, deployed the $100,000 slide, terrified, and ran outside to call their families. No one answered. Just then, a car approached from afar. The captain tensed, afraid it was looters, but relaxed when he saw only 3 soldiers. They knew about the sun mutation too, and wanted to join the escape, but they were strangers. People hesitated. The soldiers showed IDs. They were pilots and a mechanic. They could help in flight, and they needed a co-pilot. So the captain agreed. There were 45 minutes until sunrise. The soldiers urged to head west immediately, but Pete refused. He wanted to go east to save his family. There wasn't enough time. Everyone disagreed. Another argument broke out. Luckily the flight attendant stopped them. Jim spat in anger and left. No one stopped him. They resumed preparing for takeoff, gathered food, refueled, found a blowtorch for repairs, reorganized the cargo hold. The influencer secretly hid a bottle of wine, not for drinking. Work went smoothly, until another problem appeared. Mary refused to board. She didn't believe the sun could kill, and her child's lung condition couldn't handle flying. She wanted to take him to a hospital. Kelly tried to convince her, but got slapped. The attendant grabbed the child. Daisy injected a sedative, and they forced Mary onto the plane. The attendants sealed the door. The doomsday flight took off again, and luck followed. Pete restored the internet. Everyone went online for news, but that's when the bearded man discovered the soldier's secret. He called Kelly aside, showed her a tablet. The 3 soldiers were war criminals, tried for rape and murder. They escaped during the chaos. Before they could plan what to do, one of the soldiers barged in. They pretended nothing happened. Luckily he didn't notice. He took his water and left. The bearded man said they were dangerous, wanted to throw them off the plane. Kelly hesitated. Jim overheard and agreed with the bearded man, but Kelly stayed quiet, until one soldier started trouble. He found the influencer's champagne, and wanted to drink it. She stopped him. It was for promotion. He claimed it was shared supplies, and opened it. The popping sound scared an old man with dementia. He thought it was a gunshot, and tried to open the cabin door. Everyone panicked. The soldier grabbed him and threw him aside, but the old man hit a post, and stopped breathing. Daisy tried to save him, but it was too late. Everyone called the soldier a murderer. He said he was protecting them. The door couldn't open midair anyway. As a trained airman he should have known. The bearded man tried to check on him. The soldier thought he was attacking, and pulled his gun. The captain rushed over. His crew calmed the soldier down, took his weapon, and prevented tragedy. That incident made Kelly decide to get rid of them. She told the captain, under the pretext of changing his bandage. She mentioned the war crimes. The co-pilot sensed something wrong, asked why they spoke Russian. Kelly said she didn't know medical terms in English. He believed her. The captain agreed to her plan. They arranged to send the soldiers to find the radio, and leave them there. The soldiers grew suspicious. The captain froze. Kelly explained all signs were in English. Only they could read them. They accepted, but asked Jim to join, and wanted the attendant as translator. The captain didn't want to risk her, but couldn't refuse without raising doubt. He agreed. After they left, the captain told everyone about the soldiers' crimes. Kelly worried people might disagree, but they all supported it. Everything seemed perfect, until things went wrong. Jim locked the soldiers inside a warehouse, tried to pull the attendant away, but she refused to leave them. As the door was breaking, Jim ran out alone. The soldiers fired, but missed. They chased in a truck. The attendant tried to join them, but they ignored her. Meanwhile, Jim reached the plane first, told the bearded man the attendant was left behind. Time was short. No one waited. The plane started rolling. The captain wanted to stop, but the soldiers were shooting at them. Stopping meant death. He pushed the throttle. The plane accelerated. The soldiers ran out of strength. Except one, the one who killed the old man. He reached the landing gear. At that moment, a passenger saw something terrifying. A bullet had cracked a window. He tried to stop the takeoff, but it was already too late. The airplane window had a crack. A passenger happened to notice it. He immediately shouted to stop them, but the plane had already taken off. Later the captain came to check. He guessed it was caused by the soldiers' gunfire when chasing the plane. But unexpectedly, the captain didn't take any emergency measures. Instead he told the passenger to sit beside it and watch the crack. Toby refused, of course. If it suddenly broke, the cabin pressure would leak and he'd be sucked out. The captain explained it was double glass. He'd be safe. But the major wasn't happy hearing that. He stood up and scolded the captain. Stop barking orders here. The sun has mutated now. Anyone exposed to sunlight will die. On this road fleeing into the dark we're all equal, so decisions must be voted by everyone. The captain refused. He had to be responsible for the passengers' safety, but the major took it as a joke. The airline company no longer existed. Now the gun in his hand was the only law. Hearing the threat, the captain lost his temper too. He wanted to see if the major had the guts to shoot the only pilot left. While they were arguing, an alarm suddenly went off in the cockpit. The captain rushed to check, but before they could find the cause, the alarm stopped again. Both of them were confused. After confirming no button was touched by mistake, the alarm went off again. The captain realized it wasn't just a glitch. Someone must be touching the connection line. Kelly said that was impossible. Who could climb into the plane midair? The captain couldn't figure it out either. Then both felt a chill, because the only one who could get in was Was the soldier who chased the plane earlier? If he was sabotaging the circuits, the whole plane would be doomed. The situation was critical. The captain pulled the plane up to 10,000 meters and opened the landing gear, hoping to freeze the soldier and drop him into the ocean. But before the soldier died, the passengers suffered first. The sudden climb increased cabin pressure beyond what the crack could handle. Daisy tried to find help, but the next second, the glass shattered. The plane lost balance and shook violently. Oxygen masks dropped down. Everyone grabbed them like a lifeline. The captain quickly retracted the landing gear and descended the plane. But the shaking didn't ease. The mechanic Jim held his breath and grabbed an iron plate. He sealed the broken window. Finally, the danger was temporarily averted. But trouble kept coming. A boy with lung disease lost his oxygen tube. Seeing her son struggling to breathe, his mother tried to guide him to control his breathing, but that couldn't last. The bearded man came up with an idea. He cut a tube from an oxygen mask, punched 2 small holes with a knife, wrapped both ends with tape, and connected it to the oxygen generator. The boy could finally breathe normally. His mother sighed in relief, and gave the bearded man a grateful look. But this incident gave the major a chance to attack. He accused the captain of misjudging the window's strength. The captain tried to defend himself, but facts were facts. He had to return to the cockpit frustrated. He thought the soldier was dead, but the alarm kept going off. The captain guessed the soldier had survived using the heat from equipment. Kelly asked what to do next. The captain had a bold idea. Cut through the floor and kill the soldier in the landing gear bay. Without delay, the major and 2 others took the torch and began. They cut open the floor and got ready to lift the panel. The major aimed his gun at the hole, but it was pitch black inside. When the major let his guard down, a hand suddenly reached out grabbing the gun, then bit his finger so he couldn't fire. The bearded man reacted fast. He took the gun and shot into the hole. After 3 shots, everything went quiet. They all breathed in relief. But when the brave bearded man returned to the cabin, instead of cheers, everyone was staring at him strangely. Turns out when they buried the dead last time, David had seen him cutting open the corpse to take diamonds. They accused him of desecrating a body. The bearded man explained. He was a patriot. He smuggled national treasures back home by hiring the dead man to use his body as a container. But the man's death wasn't his fault. It happened because he didn't follow the procedure. No one believed him. When the plane landed, Jim fixed the window, and the others began judging him. Under everyone's harsh words, the bearded man couldn't defend himself. He thought he'd be kicked off the plane, but unexpectedly, the major stood up for him, because the major knew of a shelter, but didn't know its exact location. So he needed the bearded man's intelligence to help find clues at the NATO building. Daisy wasn't happy. So if we abandon him, you wouldn't take us to the shelter. That question hit hard. If the major refused, he'd be seen as using others' misfortune for leverage. So he had no choice. He vouched for the bearded man with his own life. If the man crossed any line again, he'd go down with him. With that said, the captain organized a vote. The majority agreed. The bearded man survived. Their next destination was set to the plane's departure city. Everyone was happy knowing there was a shelter, but the joy didn't last. The plane suddenly started descending fast. The violent shaking threw Kelly out of the rest area. She rushed to the cockpit. The captain said it was because they flew too high, but they were clearly falling. Then the captain gave a twisted smile and started mumbling to himself. Kelly knew something was wrong. He hadn't slept since they started running. She told him to rest, but he snapped saying he was fine. That wasn't normal. Even in the temperature-controlled cockpit, he looked overheated. Kelly sensed something was off, but didn't pay much attention until she found the captain fainted in the bathroom. Daisy checked and said he passed out from an infected wound. He'd need surgery soon or he'd die. But it was the end of the world. No doctors were around. The bearded man urged Daisy to do the surgery, but she exploded. He's the captain. I'm a vet, how could I do that? The bearded man was embarrassed. The major changed the topic, said they'd figure it out after landing, but now the pilot was unconscious. Who would fly the plane? The bearded man confidently said Kelly could, but everyone looked doubtful. Even he wasn't sure. Kelly refused immediately. She only knew how to fly helicopters. Flying a jet was a joke, but with no other choice, she had to try. Jim searched online for a landing tutorial and guided her step by step. As they neared the airport, Kelly grew more nervous. Jim comforted her. Even if you fail, no one will blame you. She calmed down again, but disaster struck. One engine failed. The plane shook violently, yet the passengers stayed calm. They already knew how this might end. Kelly opened the landing gear, copied the captain's earlier method, turned off all engines and glided down.
La voilà. Retard.
By miracle, the plane landed safely. Everyone was in disbelief they were still alive. Kelly felt like she was dreaming, until Jim spoke up, snapping her back. They looked at each other, and laughed out loud. Back in the cabin, everyone cheered, but celebration was short. Finding the shelter was the priority. Kelly's bravery earned her the acting captain role. She assigned Daisy to treat the captain, the Major's team to search the NATO building, and she helped Jim repair the engine. But more issues appeared. Jim suspected a faulty fuel pump. Fuel wasn't being delivered properly. That's why the engines kept failing. But when Pete heard that, his face changed. He believed the fuel was spoiled by solar radiation. The reason the plane still worked was that the contaminated fuel mixed with old fuel. Now they were out. Without good fuel, they couldn't fly even if they found the shelter. They'd just wait for death. But strangely, gasoline was unaffected. That was a small relief. Then came better news. The bald guy used to work at this airport. He knew there was a fuel depot built under the reservoir. Water acted as a shield, so the fuel might still be usable. Time was short. Jim and the bald guy drove off to the depot. Meanwhile, the Major's team drove a police car in the underground garage. When they reached the first floor, 2 soldier corpses were on the ground. Apparently NATO hid the truth not only from civilians, but their own men too. The Major saluted his fallen comrades, then headed to the top floor meeting hall. The table was covered with abandoned files. They must have left in a hurry, but they only had 2 hours before sunrise to search. It was like finding a needle in a haystack. Hopelessness hit everyone. Then Toby noticed there was a recording camera. They could replay it to see what happened in the last meeting. The Major told Toby where the security room was, then kept searching files with the bearded man. But the Major suddenly started acting up. He read aloud a letter. It contained insults toward the bearded man's country. The bearded man warned him to stop, but the Major kept provoking him. He was a racist after all. The bearded man lost patience. He slapped the Major and warned him again. That gave the Major an excuse. He punched the bearded man, and said, "Now we're even." The bearded man snapped. They fought fiercely. Both were strong. After several exchanges, the Major tried to grab his gun. The bearded man stopped him. They struggled. The Major grabbed a mic and smashed it on his jaw. The bearded man fell and didn't move. The Major thought he was faking, but after calling him several times, he realized he was dead. Panicking, he rushed to the security room. Toby had just found the coordinates. When he asked about the bearded man, the Major said he'd left earlier. Toby didn't suspect anything, but when he played back the footage, he saw the bearded man lying on the floor. The Major quickly turned off the computer, and pretended nothing happened. He told Toby to leave. Toby noticed the bruises on his face, and understood everything, but the Major had a gun, so he played along. When they got back to the airport, everyone noticed the Major's injury. He said he fell, then tried to change the subject, but the influencer asked about the bearded man. The Major pretended not to know, said the bearded man came back before them, then asked where he was now. That trick convinced everyone. Toby just watched quietly, thinking about something. Meanwhile, the captain recovered under Daisy's care, but Mary's son noticed something strange. A backpack nearby was trembling. Curious, he opened it. A squirrel jumped out. Mary rushed over after hearing his scream. She told Pete and the others, but they didn't believe her. Even humans hiding under blackout sheets couldn't survive. How could a squirrel? They thought the boy imagined it. Mary got angry. Her son doesn't lie. But Pete still didn't believe it. She stormed out of the room. Soon the captain woke up from anesthesia, returned to the cockpit to prep for takeoff. Mary noticed the bearded man was missing. She asked Toby. He stammered, saying he didn't know. Then she asked the Major. He got nervous, but gave the same excuse. Mary saw Toby's guilty eyes, and knew something was off. She asked how the Major got hurt. He snapped, said he fell during duty. Mary doubted him, and his eyes started to dodge hers. She was sure something was wrong. She yelled at Toby to tell the truth. Toby couldn't hide it anymore, afraid of being blamed. He confessed the Major killed the bearded man. The Major denied it, then accused Toby of the murder instead. At that moment, the captain's takeoff announcement sounded. Toby took the chance to run. Mary, furious, was held back by Daisy. The sun would rise in half an hour. They had to take off. The bearded man's case had to wait. Toby sat praying for God's forgiveness. The Major hoped the bearded man was really dead. Otherwise he'd be done for. The plane began moving. Then they saw a car approaching. Inside the cockpit they looked ahead, and saw the bearded man, covered in blood, step out of the car. A man became a NATO major at a young age. He was successful in his prime. Naturally, he had no shortage of luxury cars and beautiful women. Life couldn't be better for him. But now look at him, locked inside a cramped cargo hold. He hasn't had food or water for days. All he can do is struggle helplessly, because he betrayed his teammate during a mission, and everyone voted to lock him up. Normally, he should have been sent to a military court. But why is he being tortured instead? It's because the world has ended. The sun has undergone a terrifying mutation. Any living thing exposed to it will die. Even hiding staying indoors doesn't help. The only way to survive is to fly and outrun the sun. Luckily, they learned about an underwater shelter. But unfortunately, the bunker was 15 kilometers away from the airport, and the sun would rise within half an hour after landing. To prevent panic from not finding cars in time, Kelly told everyone to prepare to run on foot. But once she said that, the scene instantly fell into chaos. After all, running 15 kilometers in 30 minutes was insane. Kelly had no choice but to silence everyone, saying the plane's fuel was almost gone. Changing the destination now would mean death. If we want to survive, we have to take the risk. Everyone knew there was no turning back. They could only accept reality. But there was still one problem left: what to do with the Major. Jim suggested leaving him on the plane to die. Toby agreed, but the final decision was up to the bearded man. Everyone thought he'd agree since he was the victim, but unexpectedly, he spoke up for the Major, saying it was too cruel to do that. But the real reason was that the Major once saved his life, so saving him now would make them even. Since the victim himself said so, no one else could object, so they decided to take the Major with them. A few minutes later, the plane landed safely. Time was running out. Everyone split into two groups to look for vehicles. The Major thought Toby had saved him, so he quickly apologized, but was told it was the bearded man who did. The Major immediately felt guilty. Meanwhile, Kelly and the bearded man found two military jeeps, both with full tanks. Once everyone got in, Kelly and the bearded man discussed the route. Then the two teams set off, Kelly in front, bearded man behind. But halfway through, the captain noticed the rear car had disappeared, so he told Kelly to slow down and wait. But at a time like this, Kelly didn't dare to slow down. She refused the captain's request, saying the bearded man knew the way, then pressed the gas harder and drove right. Meanwhile, the bearded man realized he'd lost the convoy. He was about to speed up, but suddenly his nose started bleeding. His speech became incoherent, and under everyone's horrified gaze, foam started coming out of his mouth. The next second, the car lost control and crashed into the guardrail. He tried to regain control, but his hands no longer obeyed him. The car finally stopped after the crash. Smoke started coming out of the hood, but the bearded man's foot was still on the gas. Only when the engine died did the car stop completely. Everyone got out to check. A shaken Pete asked how he was. The bearded man suspected it was after effects from when the Major hit him on the head, but that wasn't the worst part. Jim checked the car and found the engine was dead. They had to walk the remaining 7 kilometers. There were only 18 minutes left before sunrise. It was a crazy idea, but they had no choice. Meanwhile, Kelly's team had already reached the shelter, but as soon as their car drove in, the gates started closing. They quickly hit the brakes. The bald man rushed forward to stop it, but the moment he touched the gate, he got electrocuted and lost his hair. Fortunately, he didn't die. The captain found the control switch and opened the gate, but just when he thought it was fixed, the gate started closing again. Apparently, it had to be manually operated. The captain grew anxious. Kelly suggested wedging something in the gate, but they couldn't find any materials. Now there were only 16 minutes left before sunrise, and they still hadn't found the bunker's entrance. Everyone was panicking. Then the Major said he would stay behind to hold it. Everyone went silent. No one expected the same man who once did anything to survive would now step up. The captain worried he might use it as a chance to escape, but couldn't say that outright, so he told him not to take the risk. But the Major insisted. He said he owed the bearded man his life, and wanted to repay that debt. The captain was moved. He looked at Kelly, and after she nodded, he agreed to let the Major stay. Told Toby to unlock his cuffs. Kelly seemed to have another plan. She sent Toby away and said she'd do it herself. Once the others left, the Major felt something was off. Sure enough, Kelly locked him to the controller instead, then tossed the key aside, and walked away. The Major shouted in anger. Kelly turned and said once everyone's through, she'd pick up the key and unlock him. Realizing the truth, the Major cursed at her. He risked his life yet still wasn't trusted. Meanwhile, the bearded man's group reached a fork in the road, but he'd lost his sense of direction. Under everyone's anxious questions, he chose the left path, only to find a dead end and a rusty gate. They realized they went the wrong way. Jim suggested turning the car around, but the steering wheel was missing. With no way back, they decided to climb the fence, but the high voltage sign scared them off. Then Pete had an idea. They took off their clothes to cover the spikes, and used tires as steps. Pete climbed up, grabbed the live wires, but nothing happened. He explained, as long as your feet are insulated from the ground, and you don't touch both wires at once, the current can't pass through you, so you won't get shocked. Guess science really can save lives. Everyone followed his lead and climbed over. Soon, they found Kelly waiting by the road. There were only 3 minutes left before sunrise. Kelly quickly led them into the shelter, not realizing one person was missing. By now the sky was already turning bright. Still waiting for the bearded man, the Major tried to save himself. He tried everything, kicking the key, smashing the cuffs with rocks, even trying to rip the control base off, but nothing worked. As the sun's edge rose higher, he slowly stopped struggling. That sunrise, which should have meant hope, had become his nightmare. It was too late. The Major faced the sun with tears in his eyes, opened his arms to meet his fate, trying to hide his cowardice one last time, but the ending didn't change. Meanwhile, Kelly's group group ran into 3 soldiers. After explaining their situation, the officer asked where the major was. Kelly froze, then realized she'd left him behind. Not wanting to seem heartless, she lied and said he came earlier. The officer said he wasn't there. Everyone looked stunned. Kelly was embarrassed, didn't know what to say. Luckily the officer didn't press further. After all, in the apocalypse, people die all the time. He turned and led them to the base hall. There they found the captain and the others who'd arrived earlier. At last, all the survivors from the Doomsday flight were saved, while the man who had saved them first, the major, was forever lost in the endless